Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Every week, we are brought to you by allaccessmma.com. Ed, how's it going, my man?
Pretty good, man. I mean, it would be better if our guest showed up, but as they say, shit happens. He might be even watching this, so no hard feelings if you are. We'll get you on the next. We'll catch you on the rebound. Stuff happens.
Yeah, no big deal. People have lives. Things happen. But with that said, so last week we kind of did a whirlwind recap, look ahead to what this Fight Island, and boy, started off with a bang on Saturday. Were you able to catch most of the card, or at least the main card? I hope.
I caught the entire main card. I mean, early cards. I think I don't know if we mentioned it last week, but early card. Well, we did mention the Saturday, but I mean tomorrow with their first two leading up to UFC 257, they have these cards that are at odd times for MMA as far as regular fight fans are concerned. That was early Saturday. I was out training myself and doing errands, and then I recorded the main card and caught that, which apparently with the prelims, I mean, if watching the post-fight press conference, according to Dana White, we didn't miss much anyway. And then the so for when it came to the the main card up, apparently was where it was at on first card on ABC. So let's bring up those results. We can take a quick look at it as
yeah, the prelims certainly weren't anything to talk about, but boy, man, the main card really did its share of it started off with Soriano picked up a huge win over Todorovic, KO, end of the first round.
Yeah.
The early in this fight, there was an illegal shot. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember if it was an eye gouge or a low blow, but or it was the dude's mouthpiece. Dude's mouthpiece got lost in the
in the cage.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, this is a perfect way for MMA to return to network television, is having the very first fight, them not being able to find the guy's mouthpiece because it's lodged in the corner of the cage. So I thought that was kind of hilarious and kind of ominous.
Yeah, it was. And what's funny about that is it's obviously we all noticed that. And obviously, with this being the first card on ABC, there were some things that went wrong that had even Dana White kind of sweating in his boots. He made note of it at the post-fight press conference, and that was one of the things that he was like, "Really, this is going to happen with the first card on ABC?" And so he was worried about that. He actually, it's funny, and until he mentioned it, I didn't notice it, but he was like, "We did no opener; it just started," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's true." Like, because I recorded it and I was like, okay, they're just gonna jump right into the fights. That's cool. Which me and you don't mind that. We don't need an opener. We know everything we need to know about it. But he was like, wow, 20 years doing this and we don't put in an opener. But I mean, yeah, not for nothing. I tweeted when I rewatched because I watched the main event with my parents live when it happened, and then I had to go back and watch this fight and the other three fights that I recorded them. So I kind of watched the event backwards. So I tweeted later that night when we were watching this fight, because when that happened with the mouthpiece, and they kind of fixed that pretty quick. I mean, considering what happened, but Todorovic was already kind of on his way out. Like he was well on his way to being knocked out anyway. That I was kind of like, if I was Dusko, I would have been like, take all the time you need to get that out of
yeah, that's the thing. Like he's the one who found it. He started digging into the corner, and I think he's the one who actually pulled it out. And even the announcer was commenting the last thing he would do would be waste any energy trying to find the mouthpiece. But I just thought that was hilarious. It's funny Dana commented on it. I didn't see that.
Yeah, because he was super worried about because one of the things he mentioned in the post-fight press conference was that. And one of the things he was concerned with was because the ABC News was going to be on right after it at their start time, no matter where they were. Like if they were in round 3 of the main event, they were just going to switch over to the news because ABC is doing this kind of to just to test how numbers and stuff, so that they weren't like married to doing it. They don't know if they're going to do it again, but he was worried about like if everything went to a decision, then we would have we would have missed out. Unless you had ESPN Plus, I guess you would have missed out on some of the fights. But I mean, obviously, as we go down the card, we're going to see it kind of played out really well for him.
Yeah, no, it started off with this one, ended up being a big time finish. Obviously, after the little bit of comical controversy, but yeah, then the next match on the card was a fight that kind of jumped out to me as one to bet on.
Oh yeah, we were both wrong on this one, boy.
Yeah, the Buckley thing, I was always amused by. I mean, not that he's not going to turn this around and become a top ranked fighter, but when guys get big, a knockout or it's a highlight, it kind of interests me how like they become like all of a sudden like this superhero of a fighter. Obviously, Chirko is a tough dude, has the skills to put you out. And it was just one of those fights. I think he was a 3 or 4-1 favorite, and I thought it was a little high. I thought he was jumping up without having, really had the tough competition. Alessio Di Chirico catches him with a head kick, puts down Buckley, and kind of ironically ends up on the other end of a kick to the face highlight film. What was your take on Chirico and his what do you want to say, his muting of being interviewed and kind of going after the media a little bit?
I wrote about, because he actually kind of explained it a little better on his own Instagram the following day. I wrote a piece over at MMAnews.com about it, but I mean, I kind of got where he was coming from, especially when he explained his side of it more, because I didn't even think about. I mean, we and you and I both mentioned it actually before the event, how he was, how this was kind of like probably set up to keep Buckley's hype going, and et cetera, et cetera. But he was like super concerned with apparently. So those losses that he had before this fight, he felt like some of them were poorly judged. He feels like maybe he didn't win, he didn't lose as bad as the results came out. But I got where he was coming from. I mean, he does have a point where he kept saying to everyone, it's two competitors that make for a great fight. So he doesn't like how they interviewed just the winner. I mean, and we've seen like main event, both the winner and the loser do get interviewed. So maybe he just felt like he should have had a voice in one of his previous losses. But on his Instagram, he was saying too that he was really nervous about being cut, obviously, if he picked up another loss. And we saw the emotion that he displayed when he won. So it looks like there was just a lot going on there. The funny thing was, it wasn't just the media that he did that to. He also did it to Dana White. Dana White was like, "Hey, congratulations!" And Dana White was like, and him and his team looked at me like, "The fuck you want?" And I just thought that was funny because, I guess they were just like, I mean, they were looking at him to be like, "Listen, don't be cutting us. We picked up a win." So, but yeah, I got where it's coming from. I just hope it doesn't mess with his career too much moving forward.
Yeah, I don't think that it will. It's an interesting point I think he makes, in it's really kind of one of the only sports, I mean, where the loser just kind of gets censored in a sense. And they're not censored. He can speak to whoever he wants to after the event, but usually the losing coach or manager gets some say. So I understand, especially if you're losing tough decisions, the frustration of kind of not being able to voice your disappointments in especially in a close fight. But this fight definitely was a big win for him. Won't get cut now.
I hope not. Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't think. I wouldn't think that would be something that they would want. And if he does go somewhere else, he's Italian. It's a big pickup for another organization if the UFC decides to do something stupid there. But
I wish
crazy.
I put money on him. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. When the fight started, I saw the odds and I go, man, that would have been a nice one to have, $10 or $20 on the Italian, but didn't work out that. I didn't place the bet, but obviously he picked up the win. Especially if you would have had him by knockout in the first round, I imagine the payout would have been crazy.
Yeah.
The next
So
fight, though, continued the run of surprises. We mentioned how Li Jingliang, super tough, the Leech, Chinese fighter. I think most of us thought that Ponzinibbio would come back, be his old self, regain his spot in the middle of the welterweight division. The Leech though has different thoughts there as he goes through and picks up the knockout also in the first round, keeping the string of 3 continuous first round knockouts going. I didn't see I didn't see this happening per se, but I'm not surprised it did.
mm-hmm. Me neither. I think I had him Jing Liang picked to win, just because I feel like I remember other finishes of his. I mean, I mean, it's weird that we're bringing that up because our guest we were supposed to have is one of his past wins that I remember him winning on, but it's definitely one of the fights that I wasn't too surprised about. I mean, listen, one thing in this sport, I think we've mentioned it before in the podcast, the guard changes in MMA, especially lately, faster than we expect. So I mean, I had a feeling. I didn't think it was going to be this dominant, but I had a feeling Jing Liang was going to pick up a W there.
Big win for him, huge
Mm-hmm.
win. Like I said, exciting fighter, always somebody to watch, but you never really thought he would get over that hump. But we'll see what happens now. Really, the only thing for him now is a top. Most people thought Ponzinibbio was a top contender, so really curious to see who they match him up with, because I imagine that the top 3-4 guys in the division aren't going to be jumping at the opportunity to fight Jin Liang.
Yeah.
But he's going to be a tough out for anybody. Co-main event, battle of the UFC geezers in a sense, but some kings of the violence. Carlos Condit, Matt Brown. Condit wins. Controversy a little bit over it being 3 rounds to nothing. I thought Matt Brown definitely won a round of the fight. The stats are ugly, but yeah. I don't think the stats tell the story completely of the fight. At least not from my eyes. The judges obviously thought so. But I thought the consensus was it was a lot closer fight than the judges kind of made it sound. I thought this was a great performance by both guys, really, at their age, at the wear and tear. I thought this was about as good as you're going to get out of 2 guys like this fighting at this point of their career.
Yeah, I don't understand these stats either on the US. We're on the screen for folks watching the video version of this podcast. We use the UFC.com website images, but you know what, man? I thought it was a great fight. I actually loved it as somebody that likes grappling. I mean, this round 2, that takedown that Carlos got in round 2 that had Dan Hardy and them on their feet had me, cheering after the fact. I don't know what the live like what the consensus was with fans watching at home, if they thought it was boring or whatever. I didn't think it was boring at all. I think the controversy, at least from Matt Brown, I think he thought he felt he won the first round. Listen, the first round, it looked tough to me, but I mean, with the control and positions that Condit, even when he was in bad positions, when he did that one switch. I think it's the same round. I think that was also round 2 when he hit that wrestler switch when he was against the cage, and it looked like Matt Brown was going to grind him against the cage, and he just it literally was almost like out of nowhere. So I mean, it was nice to see. I mean, it's funny that you said geezers or whatever, but when you hear that word veterans now in MMA, especially me as someone who is a geezer, I'm kind of like, oh man, I was like, why do you like when you hear the word veteran? It's like, oh, it's like, come on, man. It's like calling somebody, it's like calling a woman older. So like asking a woman how old she is. Like you're not supposed to do back in the days of when the chivalry and gentlemen existed. But you know what I mean? Like I was just like, when I heard veteran, I was like, because I mean, obviously, Matt Brown already retired sort of once and came back right away. And then Carlos Condit had to deal with his knee issue with the knee or whatever and came back to the folks thought he was gone. So, I mean, I don't know, man. They still have the drive to do it. So I'm all for it. What are they, only 30 something? What are they, in their 30s?
Yeah, I'm sure they're still in their late 30s, but that's not my point. I guess they're both from the older generation. They're from another generation of fighters. They're not these are. I guess you want to say if we're looking at like UFC or MMA generations, these guys are both pre-Conor fighters. Carlos Condit's a pre. Carlos Condit's like an Anderson Silva generation fighter. So, it's that's what I mean by older. It's kind of like I consider Jose Aldo older, but he's what 32. He's been around. He's fighting forever, and he just kind of cross generational of MMA as far as MMA fighters go. But yeah, enjoyable fight. Had a lot of fun watching it. I thought both guys performed well. Like I said, for me, it was as good as you're going to get out of two guys at this point of their career. I don't think anybody, either of these guys are making a run at the title before their career ends. Talent right now is just off the chart, and it's a younger thing, and these guys have had reconstructive surgeries. These are the fights that they should have, and these are the fights that I mean, I don't know what Condit, Diego Sanchez, that kind of fights, the stuff that should be happening. So I know Matt Brown almost murdered Diego Sanchez, but those are still the fights that make most sense. Main event now, when we get into we start talking about the champions and top level stuff. Max Holloway, obviously not the champion, but former champion, went into the main event against Kelvin Kattar. Pretty even odds, slight favorite, and from start to finish, just annihilated the dude. Looked again like the Max Holloway. I think we both said it, when we were talking about last week. We just didn't see Holloway taking another loss, and basically there are levels to this, and it seems that even though there was some question coming off of his losses, he again establishes himself as the best in the world, or one of the best in the world at his weight class for sure.
One thing that came out of this was these stats here, these numbers here, the 447, like
the most significant strikes, the most total strikes.
It's literally like I don't know how. And then he did all kinds of interviews and was joking around after. I mean, look! Oh my God! Look, strikes by position 400. It was just like, this is the one I watched with my parents, and even my parents were like, "Oh my God!" Like, they don't really watch this sport, and they were like, "Oh my God!" Like this guy is like, first, how is he not getting tired? But the other thing too was, how was Calvin Kattar? There was one point where I thought he was going to drop, and then he just started wailing away, firing back just wild punches to stay on his feet so that the ref wouldn't stop it. And I was just like after I was done with that, I mean, that's the one I watched live, and I was like, listen, if you weren't a fan of Calvin Kattar after this fight, before this fight, then you got to be now, because I definitely became one.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan before. I guess for him, it's great he made it to the final bell, but it was just one of those fights I felt like the corner probably could have done him a favor and stopped it a round or two early. It was pretty clear that, but like you said, every time it looked like he was going to go down, he basically just started swinging Hail Mary, just, hooks. And he was enough there where they were a threat to Holloway, and even a couple of them landed. It kind of had you go, whoa, like, if Holloway walks into that, this could turn the script real quick. But I was just glad to see Holloway back. We talked about wasn't it you talking about maybe doing a Holloway? Was it Holloway McGregor fight?
Yeah, and it's funny,
I kind of badmouthed the idea, but after this performance, like, suddenly it makes a lot more sense, especially if McGregor loses. If McGregor loses, that fight makes like all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
If Holloway's going to go up to 155,
Yeah.
not so much if McGregor wins because I still think we're looking at the title stuff. But I think it was a great call by you last week. After seeing that performance, Holloway certainly certainly has all the momentum if he wants to jump up again and give 155 a try against some of the top dogs.
Yeah, what's funny about that though, I mean, obviously, and he said that he's going to hang out in Abu Dhabi and watch UFC 257 in case if somebody needs to step in, he's all willing to do it. But post fight press conference, Dana White was like, appreciate the enthusiasm, love the idea, but not only do I want him to take a break after that, both of them, but he was like, not only do I want him to take a break and take a few months off after a performance like that, but I didn't like Holloway at 55, and I would prefer he stay at 45, and so it doesn't look like that'll happen. But hey, you never know. I mean, they're on an island during COVID. If Holloway's clear, ready to go, like COVID test, I doubt. I mean, I don't know how they self-regulate when they're there. I assume. I don't think that I would assume that the mandatory 30-day suspension would keep Holloway from fighting a week later from his last fight. So, but I mean, I'm just saying all that to say, like, yeah, it was something that was kind of like I said, it's planting the seeds of possibilities. I mean, but Holloway was more focused on trying to bait Khabib back into fight because they had that press conference in Brooklyn and with everything else that happened. What was that, 229? That event? I forget the event number, but the whole bus week incident, that was just a bad week to try to do anything. and Barclays in Brooklyn, but it was initially supposed to be Holloway, Khabib as a replacement, and then the commission didn't like Holloway's chapped lips and made him stop cutting weight and blah blah blah. So it looked like that's something he if he can bait, because the announcement came at this event. I mean, I know we're going to move on to some other news, but the announcement came after this event about Dana White's meeting with Khabib and how we got a solid maybe from Khabib based on what he sees, on this coming weekend. Listen, I mean,
it was the biggest joke ever.
Yeah.
I can't believe people fell for it's
he's not coming back.
He does it again, but I mean, Dana White does it again. Every time he tells you there's going to be a huge announcement, we never hear the huge announcement. It never is. It's an action figure. It's a doll. It's somebody retiring from the fucking casino industry. Like we all knew it was a maybe. Like no shit. If you offer him $1 billion, he'll fight tomorrow. But I
don't know, man. I feel like, I mean, the whole culture he comes from and stuff. I think he's sticking to his guns. I think he really wants to be done.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I believe he's retired.
Yeah,
but with that said, $1 billion is $1 billion. I mean, if the UFC came up with $1 billion, that's
$1 billion to show up. Hey,
yeah, you know what I mean. But that's obviously not happening.
Yeah, no,
nowhere even anywhere near that. So for him fighting for another 10 or 15 million probably isn't just worth it to him. With like you said, the reason he walked away, his religious beliefs, his country, his values that he believes in as a person.
And not for nothing, the whole thing with you got to remember it's because of the connection to his father, the reason he got into fighting, that's what got him into MMA, and if that was the star that guided your path and it's not there anymore, then maybe it's just that was it for him. And I mean, you got to kind of put yourself in his shoes and just be like, listen, hey, that could just be it for him, and let him go. He did his thing. I know Dana really wants to get that nice even number of 30-0, but like GSP already shut down any possibility, and that apparently was just never going to happen anyway. So I mean, and we know Khabib's not trying to give Conor any kind of. Conor's trying to bait him with the recent interviews he's done too. So
yeah, I don't think he's gonna fall for it. If Khabib wants to fight, it's gonna be because he wants to fight. He's gonna have a motivation. Someone's gonna have to come out of the woodwork. And I think he's young enough where he can wait. He can sit out a couple years and let somebody develop. Let maybe it's a Chandler or an Oliveira or McGregor. Maybe somebody goes on like a legit 4 or 5 fight win streak, defends the belt a couple times. And then all of a sudden you kind of have, all you just need to have a question. If somebody can question, are they the greatest? If all of a sudden you can question, because right now Khabib's the greatest. Well, him and GSP.
Mhm.
GSP is 170. The greatest 155er of all time is Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Mhm.
And until that's threatened again, I just don't see any reason for him to jump in there and risk it, because 30-0 sounds great, but 29-0 is a lot better than 29-1, and we know how fickle MMA fans can be.
Yeah.
If he comes back fights Gaethje again, and Gaethje catches him with an uppercut this time, is a little more loose and catches him, then we've been down this route before. Then he'll get the Fedor treatment, or he'll get the BJ Penn. We'll just learn that all of a sudden he was never as good as we thought he was,
Yeah.
because some 23-year-old blogger decides that's that's what they think.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. With that said about Holloway, real quick, just looking at the rankings, he's kind of in limbo at 145. That's the issue he's got, because he's 0-2 against the champ.
Wasn't he number one still?
No, yeah, but like historically, in boxing and in an MMA,
I got you. Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at it, he's 0-2 against the champ.
But that was a split decision, the last one. I mean,
dude, I'm not saying that he didn't even win the last fight. I thought he won it. But the history still shows he's 0-2 against the champ. The champ's fighting Ortega, who he already beat. And
handily too, yeah.
And then Zabit's kind of nowhere to be seen right now. Yair's on God knows what suspension. He just beat Cater. Korean Zombie again is.
I forgot what weight class Yair fights in.
That's what I mean. But what I'm saying is basically, if you look at the top 5 or 6 in that division, there's nobody for Holloway really to fight. I don't get if Ortega upsets Volkanovski, I'm not excited for Ortega Holloway too. Yeah. In my mind, I have no reason to believe, especially after this past weekend, that Holloway just wouldn't pick him apart again, maybe even worse. But so Volkanovski is the only fight that makes sense. But again, you're selling a fight where a dude lost twice. Usually doesn't happen. Usually you have to go to a different division. Usually you have to go on a win streak. But there's nobody for him to really fight. Him dropping down, him fighting a Josh Emmett and stuff just doesn't make sense. So so that's where the lightweight division being so stacked right now, if he wanted to try to make that move, maybe he feels like a good matchup. Poirier obviously wasn't the matchup, but maybe a Paul Felder. Maybe he feels like a matchup with Paul Felder is a better matchup for him, because Felder's spent a lot of his it can bounce back and forth. They could even do it at stuff like that. But I just, it's interesting to see where he goes. But amazing performance, and
oh man, yeah.
It's great. It was fun to see. It's fun to see a guy who you thought was kind of down.
Even my dad who's been through everything he's been through that about, he was on the edge of his seat, was like, oh my God, who's going to win this fight? By round 3, he was like, the other guy's not winning.
No, it was pretty clear. It was pretty clear. But, right before this event, we talked about that UFC put out that video, mocking the reporters and putting all their big profits and record-breaking stuff. And, I kind of called bullshit on it because we don't really know the numbers. Well, of course, it comes out the UFC is raising the price of pay-per-views again. So I believe this Conor McGregor fight will be the first UFC listed at $69.99.
Ouch.
Do you really, are you having record-breaking? You're celebrating record-breaking profits, and then you raise the price of the pay-per-view? I mean, either greed is just beyond, which we know it is. We know what their situation is, but it leads me to believe that those numbers can't be accurate. It just leads me to believe that they're fucking complete bullshit, because if you thought you were going to get 2 million views or pay-per-views for this anyway, why would you even risk raising the price and all of a sudden only getting 1.5 million? I guess it's only $5. Maybe they don't think the average person is not going to do it. Yeah. But I just, I'll never believe those numbers unless I see them actually in front of me by somebody else other than a Zuffa slash a whatever the hell IWG
Media friendly.
media friendly
Yeah.
chick.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You know what? You make me put my chin to my hand to my chin because you made me just for some reason when you said that I thought about. Do you remember? Obviously, they still raised their prices after the fact years later, but do you remember when Netflix tried to out of the blue raise prices on people, and it became this thing that it was like, "Yo, you guys are mad greedy right now. Like you don't even do shit." This was before they started, pre Strangers Things and stuff like that. They were still doing the DVDs or
uh,
whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so it just made me think, like you said, and they, their fans or customers called them on it, and they pulled back and were like, "Okay, you're right, we were wrong." But that you saying that just made me think about that and makes me wonder, like, where do the only way fans can really express themselves the same way. I mean, because obviously Dana White is not Reed Hastings. He's not. He's I'm gonna do what I want to do, and that's how this business has been built. And you don't know it, like I know it, which is not for nothing. I mean, he's been proven right most of the time because of the success he's seeing. So I'm just saying that if people are going to have a problem with this, then the best way to make your voice heard, because he obviously tells everyone to go fuck themselves on social that tries to voice their opinion. So I shouldn't have to spell this out for anybody, but don't fucking buy it. You know what I mean? Don't cancel your ESPN Plus subscription. I mean, shit, you got to do this. You got to pay for ESPN Plus to buy the pay per view, and they're gonna jack that up on you too. I mean, shit. You know what I mean? Like, get the
I
fuck
think
out of
it's insane.
here.
I think it's insane.
Is MMA highbrow now? Like,
It's beyond highbrow. Apparently, there's no other
yeah,
sport you got to spend $70, a month to watch. At minimum, UFC is what $80. When you count ESPN Plus, a pay per view, uh, a cable package just to have ESPN. I mean, you're talking, $100 a month just to be a fan of the sport.
mm,
Uh, it's it seems crazy. I just the prices are nuts for the pay per views. Um, I mean, you shouldn't be able to get a ticket to the event for the price of a fucking pay per view. You know, I mean, like it just really weird. So I don't know. I can't. The numbers you especially when you brag about it, like we're in a pandemic, like a lot of people aren't working, a lot of people are
yeah,
struggling right now. Like then you're gonna have like this, you know, spike the football, have a celebration in the end zone, video go out where you're bragging about how much money you made and how you broke all your records, and then like on the right off the tailgate of that, you're gonna all of a sudden raise the prices. Nah, nah. Like you can spell it out however you want to spell it out. People are like you said, more and more people are just going to figure out ways to not support the UFC financially but still watch the sport.
mm. Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently Dana White's got something for those people too. So,
Yeah, no, and maybe rightfully so. I'm not here to say right, wrong,
mm,
whatever. I just know that the one organization is trying to sell a pay-per-view now for $70 a month, um, when there's you know
you can
smart,
watch stuff on
when there's smart.
CBS or
Yeah,
NBC
and there's
Sports.
people
Yeah,
that are smart enough to know how to not do that, and
yeah,
again, right, wrong, nobody's right in this situation. Charging $70 for the pay per view isn't right. Stealing the pay per view is not right. But there's got to be some middle ground. I mean, $70 is that's fucking ridiculous. And this isn't. We're not getting ultimate cards. Great, McGregor's fighting, but it's a solid card. But we're not getting, you know. For $70, we used to talk about it for $100. You'd get like in a dream card, it would be like Lesnar versus Fedor, and Chuck versus Vanderlei, and Vitor versus Shogun. People would make like their 15 fight card. I'd pay 100 for this. Well, now you're paying 79 or $70 for McGregor, Poirier, and a couple contenders
mm,
fighters. So it's crazy where it's gone, and how expensive it's become. And I wonder, it's eventually it's just got to hit a wall, or they're
yeah.
just, I mean, it's just it doesn't seem to me to be. Or maybe we just get to 6 pay-per-views a year, which I'd be fine with. Charge $100 a pay-per-view, do one every other month. I mean, there's other ways around it. Have your fight nights, give us the
Yeah, I
10
mean,
10 best fights on a pay-per-view.
the quality obviously would, if they did less, maybe they could, maybe we could get these mega cards, every pay per view, and then making maybe the bang for the buck wouldn't hurt so bad. But hey, listen, man. I mean, we're saying a lot of stuff that maybe some folks will agree with, maybe some folks won't agree with. But at the end of the day, you and I haven't sold anything for $4 billion. So,
No,
so
no, 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 no. And
you
I'm
know what
not
I mean? Like,
I'm not criticizing them as businessmen. I
no,
understand
I'm
it.
just,
I
yeah,
just, as a public relations thing, as a timing thing, to me, it just doesn't look good. And most people, I
yeah.
guess, don't pick up on that. The average person is just won't even notice the difference between 65 and 70. I imagine that'll be the case if you're dropping 65.99 or 64.99 every month, then you're gonna keep doing it. But
Mhm.
it just seems greedy and a money grab. Because why just $5? Why not make it $100?
Hey, we'll see. I mean,
You
listen,
know?
they're bringing in their biggest pay per view draw, to sell this one. But I mean, we'll say I always like to give, like, when I watch a TV show, I usually give it like the first 3 episodes to decide if I'm going to stick with it or not. I'm going to say the first 3 pay-per-view events, we'll find out if they're, by the end of the first quarter, they'll probably be like, maybe in July they'll be like, hey, guess what, sorry,
Yeah.
back to
I'm curious. Have you seen any of the ratings for UFC on ABC? I'm surprised we haven't seen those yet.
No, and today's Tuesday. You would think
Because
that.
that's gonna this will be the only ratings that they really can't hide. I mean, I guess ESPN too, but this ones are gonna be true ratings. So I'm curious to see, because I imagine they're gonna be low, and they're gonna blame it on the start time and football, all the stuff we talked about last week. But I'm betting that the ratings aren't gonna be off the chart. I hope I'm wrong. I actually
I
hope I'm wrong.
mean, yeah, and we were talking about that. They're up against a couple of things, right? And
Yeah, I just
the
usually
earliness of it.
it seems like you would have got those results quicker than uh, than we've got them. But if they don't stop, UFC tomorrow morning. I thought it was an evening card. Initially, I
Me
thought it was
too.
early evening. Now it's actually early morning. We get the main card kicks off at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and the prelims are at 9 Eastern. This was obviously the fights we talked
And
about.
have it with my coffee and my poops.
Just glancing to see if there's any other.
I mean, it's a pretty big. I mean, the prelims are
The
pretty.
prelims are a bunch of prelims.
I'll tell
So
you right now, the ones that jump out at me. Obviously this one, because this is the one that Khabib is in town for, to corner Umar.
mhm.
So he's 12-0, so maybe he's trying to you know carry on the family legacy of dragging dudes through the cage,
Uh, the
and then
Nurmagomedov name doesn't lose very often.
no, and then
Yeah.
Dalcha Langiambula versus Marcus Perez jumps out at me, and then obviously because of the um what do they call themselves now? ATT Portland guys. Ricky Simone versus Gaetano Perillo. I'm just
Simone's always fun to watch.
yeah. I actually haven't picked to win that fight. But those are just the ones that I like as I glanced it over when we were trying to look at this card because of how early it is in the time between. I mean, we briefly talked about some of the like the standout on the main cards from last week's episode.
Yeah, the Modafari
Hmm.
Arujo fight. Warley Alves is always exciting, and the main card. I mean, obviously this fight was hurt with Chimaev and Leon Edwards getting
Yeah.
removed, but Magny Chiesa has a chance. Um,
Oh yeah,
to
I'm glad we have this up because we were talking. You checked and you said Magny had the reach advantage over Chip.
reach. Yeah, that's about what I was showing last week. So yeah, I mean, Magny's got all the stats that would lead you to believe he get the win. I picked Magny to win. I know you were kind of leaning towards Chiesa, fishing for a sub,
Hmm.
and maybe pulling something out. But fun fight. Uh, kind of a gatekeeper fight, maybe not a loser leaves town, because I don't think either of these guys are going
No.
anywhere, but kind of loser is no longer a contender fight for a
Yeah.
while. I think is maybe makes a little more sense, but it's in the morning. I'm gonna wake up. I'm not working tomorrow, so I will wake up and
Main
watch
card, I
fight.
think, is going to be around noontime because, again, if we look back at the prelims, it's a long, a lot of prelims. So, but yeah, I mean, for you, it's the morning. For me, it's noontime. But yeah, I definitely listen. It's going to be rough for me working my day job and having these on and trying to keep up with everything. And tomorrow's definitely going to be a busy day for me. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I don't mind it at all because all of them, the prelims and this main card, are on regular ESPN. So,
So you can
you know,
record it and watch what you missed, and
yeah.
yeah, no, everything works out. Oh man, so and then the McGregor fight again on Saturday, but I think that's been talked about ad nauseum right now throughout the whole MMA world. Uh, Other than that, Ed, you got anything else this week, or just kind of gonna get through the fights tomorrow and look forward to the pay per view, I guess, on Saturday, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely I feel like really quick, I just want to bring up the main card here
Oh, for
because
Saturday. Okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
because one of the fights that I feel like I don't want it's not getting overlooked, but it's definitely one that seems to not. I mean, I guess today I've seen some buzz on it, but when with McGregor and Apoya top the card, but that's most seems to be most of the focus. Um,
And it's a good card. I'm talking
but
shit
this
about pay per views. This is
but this
actually pretty
this
legit.
fight right here, I feel like is not getting the love that it should. I think this is gonna be really one to watch because I know we talked about it like UFC jitters and I've been watching some interviews. I want to there's some stuff I want to write if I can get some time to write it on Chandler addressing the whole because we had talked about Will Brooks and UFC jitters and Will Brooks has those 2 wins over him and he kind of addressed it recently in an interview with Kevin Iole over at Yahoo, talking about media friendly guys and this is it's one of the things where he kind of hinted like he had some stuff going on in his life, personal life or whatever, but he he believes he can because Dan Hooker's ranked number 6 according to the UFC ranking right here on the
Mhm.
on their website. So he believes if he gets the W, he inserts himself at lightweight number 5, and then he's obviously in line to fight all those killers at lightweight, which is probably. I mean, I feel like 155 all over the landscape of MMA is just a shark tank, no matter where you compete. But um, I feel I just I think it's going to be either fight of the night contender or you know it's going to be like, oh Jesus, man, too bad. It's either going to be that or it's going to be like, oh man, I wish Michael Chandler went to the UFC a couple of years ago. You know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I look forward to it. Like again, we talked about this, but you know, Chandler fighting's obviously exciting. A lot of people still don't know much about him. A lot of the casual UFC fans. So I hope he puts on a show and people are introduced to him in a proper fashion.
Yeah, yeah, that's I agree with that 100%. I feel like he's got a chance though, but we'll see what happens. But no, that's it. I I'm definitely we obviously are gonna get a UFC overload. It's weird, folks that were like complaining that about too many UFCs or then Saturday came around and it's like we have something to watch again. I'm not gonna lie, the last couple of weekends before last weekend, I was I had a little trouble. I was I was playing video games, streaming on Twitch, or just drinking myself to death because I was like, what else? You know what I mean? Like, because I train in the daytime, what am I gonna do? What do you do on a Saturday night during a pandemic?
Yeah. No, I hear you. And not to have no MMA basically is not just UFC, but to not have anybody really bringing much. So But that's over now. Fights Wednesday, then Saturday, and
Yeah.
probably never stop again for the rest of the year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Until then, fans can always check us out at allaccessmma.com. Follow me on Twitter at MMAHawk21. Also on Instagram at MMAHawk21. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Oldhead Carb on Twitch. Ed, midday fights, get those down, and hopefully get a rebooking for what we missed out on tonight for the near future. And I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about next week regardless.
All right, cool. We'll see you at the fights.
Yep.